This movie went for 3 hours. My ass is numb. My watch was yelling at me to stand up. And I feel like Apple need to invent a Christopher Nolan prompt. So you just hit that prompt and it will leave you alone for several hours because you're in for the long run. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the very impromptu setting. I've just finished seeing Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. I'm recording my review in my car. I'm then going from here where the cinema is to Daniello's place, one of my directors for Uncharted: The Oxus Redemption. We're going to be doing some editing of some scenes, and then we are going to location scout for our final shooting day in a couple of days, and then principal photography is wrapped. So I don't have time to go back home in my study and do a traditional recording, but I just wanted to give, I guess you could say, a quick out of the theater reaction, but also just my initial thoughts on Oppenheimer. So it's pretty obvious that, it's opening opposite Barbie. It's each end of the spectrum. It tells the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, portrayed by Cillian Murphy, the inventor of the atomic bomb, the events that lead up to the testing of the bomb, and then the initial events that took place in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So, directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Christopher Nolan. In terms of the cast, I cannot list them all. You are going to see people who you don't recognize at first, but the more you watch their performance, you're going to go, oh my God, it's X, Y, and Z. Everyone is in this fucking film. Even Josh Peck from Drake and Josh has a bit of a pivotal role and involvement in the film. So obviously the film stars Cillian Murphy as J. Robert Oppenheimer, who delivers an incredible performance. We also have Emily Blunt as Kitty Oppenheimer, his wife. She is incredible. You can always rely on her to deliver a damn good performance, along with Florence Pugh and Robert Downey Jr., who for once is not playing Tony Stark. I didn't see a skerrick of Tony Stark in his performance, nor the Robert Downey Jr. isms, I guess you could say. He completely disappeared, and it was so refreshing to see. Now, the storyline does jump around a lot in terms of timeline, and most of it does take place with Oppenheimer's indictment. So we jump from there to the events of him recruiting his crew, moving out to the desert, setting up a community to start building and testing the atomic bomb. Now, in terms of what I thought of Oppenheimer, it is probably my favorite film of the year so far. One of the biggest reasons, because it wasn't a fucking comic book movie. I don't have to say spoiler alert because you know what happens. This is a dark movie. It doesn't tiptoe around what happened leading up to it. It doesn't make light of anything. And yes, you do see the events of them testing the bomb, the building of the bomb. It acknowledges the events after they successfully test the bomb, that Nagasaki and Hiroshima have been bombed, and also the psychological warfare that Oppenheimer plays with himself. And it's also one of those things where you can see something, but no one else can. And that's Robert Oppenheimer's mind. It delves into his psychology. He's a very deep, flawed individual, which I really dug. That's the thing. It is not a pretty film in terms of that. And there's a quote from the film, "It's not a new weapon. It's a new world." Like, the events of testing, recruiting the crew, it changed the world. And obviously with the war itself and trying to end the war. And again, going back to the fact that it's not a comic book movie, that's why it was so refreshing. I don't have to wait around for the end credits to see Skippy McDippy rock up and say, hey, and then it cuts to black. Yes, like I said, you do see the bomb being detonated, and it is incredible effects, supposedly practical. I can't wait to see more featurettes come out as the film does the rounds about how they did those effects. Apparently there was no CGI used whatsoever in this film. I'm a bit skeptical, but it's Nolan, so I totally believe it. But for the most part, it's people having a conversation. And for the whole 3 hours, I was glued to my fucking seat. And again, just refreshing. The events leading up, the aftermath, what it does to someone. The fact that he was known as Prometheus, the destroyer of worlds, what the hell does that do to a man? His wife, his children, and you can see that effect on Emily Blunt, who plays his wife Kitty, their 2 children, and everyone around him. Now, of course, it goes without saying, Cillian Murphy is absolutely incredible. It's so good to see him in a role like this. I feel like this is his magnum opus. The standout performance for me, however, Josh Hartnett. I never thought I'd be saying that. Josh Hartnett is in this role. He has a very big role in this film. He was fantastic. I know he's had a bit of radio silence for the last couple of years. You know, he's done a few things here and there, a lot of indie stuff. But my God, like, gone are the days of that young man from Halloween H2O who couldn't act his way out of a paper bag. And that's not to throw shade at someone who can't act. You know, we all have humble beginnings. We're all a little bit rusty when we start out. But he was just so damn good in it and charismatic as well. I think when it comes down to it, the film affected me in a way that a film hasn't in a very long time. I feel the films that I've seen lately have been very surface level, whereas this is profound, it's thought-provoking, it's based on true events, and you are watching incredible performances from an array of actors, each end of the spectrum. And obviously there are Nolan's regulars. Gary Oldman even has a cameo in it. He's in it for a couple of minutes and he's gone. Rami Malek. We also have the gentleman, and I'm sorry, I don't remember names. I'm always just good with faces. There was a gentleman who was in The Dark Knight Rises who helps Bruce escape from the pit. He plays Albert Einstein, and he's fucking incredible. So, like, cast aside, Nolan's brilliant directing and writing aside, Jonathan, his brother, didn't write this time around. It was just Christopher Nolan. My hat goes off to the talented artisans working behind the scenes, whether it be the costumers, the hair, makeup, the wig technicians, the production design. This is a beautiful looking film. My only gripe, and this is from me, I didn't see it in IMAX because the IMAX in Sydney is still under construction. It's nearly done. I saw it on the most basic screen because it was the earliest showing. I had not gone to a premiere, nothing. I booked the earliest session this morning, 9:45, because I was just desperate to see it. And it's definitely one of those things where you have to experience this on the big screen. The sound design is brilliant. In terms of the dialogue, it's much better than, say, Tenet or Dunkirk. They've really put the work in on making sure you hear that dialogue, but it's great that they're capturing it all in real time on the set with those boom mics and not doing ADR afterwards. There are a few times, like in one instance, there's a storm right before they do the test of the actual bomb. Sometimes you can't hear a few words, but that's understandable. That's to be expected in a storm. Like, that's real world. Like, you're in a storm. Sometimes you're not going to hear what your mate's saying to you. So guys, once again, I'm sorry for the impromptu review in my car. I've got the crash mat here that we've been using for Uncharted. We've got one more day using it. So a lot of stuff I'll just be keeping in the back of my car. But overall, like, it is a dark film. And I left the theater sad, depressed, but there's no real happy ending with what happened. And Nolan, his cast, his talented crew of artisans showcased that it was a different time back then. It was a dark time. Again, this isn't a new weapon. It's a new world. This is by far my favorite film of the year because it moved me and I didn't have to rely on a gunfight, you know, people with capes flying through the sky, a firefight, stuff like that, and a post-credits scene. And oh, spoiler alert, make sure, you know, it was just different. And it's exactly what I needed. It's my favorite film of the year. And with that, I'm going to be giving Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer 5 Barbies out of 5. Yes, I did that. Guys, with that being said, once you have checked out Oppenheimer, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. It's a pretty deep film, but fuck. Nolan, his cast, his talented crew, they did it. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.